Hello everyone again and welcome to Steve's Indies, the place to find all things cinema. If you are new to this channel and you haven't seen part 1 already, this video is about the 10 best films that I saw in 2020. So if you haven't seen it already, then I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can go and view the first 5 films. And just a quick recap on the channel, this is a place where we find all things cinema, and I bring to you on a weekly basis independent cinema, which you may or may not have already seen before. Please click subscribe and yeah, that'd be brilliant. Anyway, on to part 2 where I talk about the 5 best films that I saw in 2020. So I feel like this list is favouring a lot of films released in 2019, and continuing that tradition is the documentary For Sama, which, and I'm sticking by this opinion, should have definitely won Best Documentary at the Oscars. But nonetheless, it was nominated, so there's that. While watching this gripping first-person story of defiance, revolution and survival, it got me thinking that I actually know nothing about the war in Syria, and if anything, it completely opened my mind up to the horrors that people like Waad Al-Kateab have gone through, just to get her story out for the world to see. It was really impressive to see a documentary film at the Oscars that showcased the Syrian civil war in such devastating detail. The film follows Al-Kateab in an incredible 5 years of documentation, working and choosing to stay in war-torn Aleppo. And trust me, how she survived to document this is an absolute miracle, as she begins to report and balance her relationship as a nurse, wife and mother. It's a very hard film to watch throughout its duration, and one scene in particular was like nothing I'd ever seen on any documentary film. It was just absolutely incredible. Waad Al-Kateab is an amazing, resilient person, and this film really showcases her struggle. It wasn't my cup of tea at all, and maybe I put off watching it for so long because I guess it's just easier not knowing that this kind of stuff happens in the real world, but watching it was important and definitely changed my outlook for the better. I feel on this Academy Awards year, Hollywood made a lot of poor decisions, and for Sama it did not get the recognition that it deserved, but at least it won the BAFTA for the best documentary in the UK, and should be on anybody's most influential documentaries list. So number 4 on my list, and yes, it's not my best picture, but the one and only Parasite, and another 2019 film, would you believe it? A film that took Hollywood and the world by storm by picking up the holy grail of all film awards at the 92nd Academy Awards. And no, it's not the film I'd pick, but I'll get to that later. However, I can see why it blew up and became an instant cult success for sure. It only took me watching it for the second time to realise this. The story centres around a poor but skilled family looking to become rich and do more with their lives and individual skills. Ideas are ingeniously hatched and the new relationships are formed, which involves a less socially aware rich family. Parasite made history by becoming the first foreign language film to win the Best Picture at the Oscars, and I don't think it will be the last. South Korean director Bong Joon-ho is an extremely humble and likeable character with an amazing talent for showcasing great stories. I'm looking forward to seeing what he creates in the future. Parasite did deserve recognition. However, for me personally, I hope that the Academy chose Parasite for its exceptional script and perfect way of combining dark storyline with witty dialogue between family members, and didn't choose it on the basis that it was simply different to English-speaking film, therefore suggesting that they do not show bias towards foreign films for which they have historically been judged for doing. Ultimately, I still don't know why it's called Parasite, although if I was to guess just from watching, I'd say it's along the lines of an idea or a plan, a very devious and at times hysterical plan that causes hell and a lot of harm from within, and not about a strange mystical rock for which we all were led to believe in the beginning. So we're into the top 3, and this one I was very surprised that I needed to add this to my list. It is Danny Boyle's Yesterday, another film from 2019 that stars the upcoming Himesh Patel and Lily Allen. So the screenplay was by Richard Curtis, and it's based on a story by Jack Barth. It's a film named after the famous Beatles song, and for very good reason. After waking up after an accident that left him unconscious, Patel's lovable and likeable musical character Jack Malik awakens to a world where many things no longer exist. For many people, a world without the Beatles is nothing. However, for a music lover and aspiring musician, the Beatles are life and key to almost any successful song written in the modern era. So what does Malik do? He capitalizes on this in amazing and hilarious fashion. It's a good feel story about love, loss, and remembering what to find most important in life and hanging on to it. And if we're being honest, it's primarily number 3 on my list for 2 reasons. Number 1, anything that Danny Boyle creates, in my opinion, never fails. And 2, it hits hard to home because the majority of the film was filmed in my birth county of Norfolk, where I spent most of my days as a baby. You could say that this is one of the more sentimental films in my life, showcased by a master filmmaker, which I have a lot of respect for. It's a real roller coaster of emotions and good feel hilarious scenes that never left me bored. At number 2 is The Imitation Game in 2014, and what I saw for the very first time last year was Benedict Cumberbatch at his absolute best, playing a character only he could pull off. Yet again, portraying a character so invested and obsessed with his own overwhelming intelligence that he completely disregards all of his relationships. For those of you who don't know, The Imitation Game is based on the story of mathematical genius and national legend Alan Turing and is raced against time to break the impossible Enigma code. The hardest code to crack in history, developed by the Nazis during World War II to hide their war movements from the Allies. Crack the code and you win the war. This film has to be one of the best biographical films that I have ever seen. I was enjoying every moment of it, from following and willing Turing to be the hero and save the day, to all of the scenes in between where he's discovering exactly what kind of a person he is. The character development is absolutely fantastic. From following and willing Turing to be the hero and save the day, to all of the scenes in between where he's discovering exactly what kind of a person he is and whether it's possible to live in this world as a genius and still maintain basic human relationships. But by far the best aspect of this film is the casting. The screenplay was simply made for Cumberbatch, and he was made to play Turing. It's champagne casting, and even Keira Knightley's character Joan Clark brings so much to the film and character development, showing Turing's moral side and that behind this genius is an actual human. From start to finish, this is a must-see, particularly if you're interested in 1940s war dramas. And finally, number 1, and what I believe should have won the Best Picture and certainly Best Director at the Oscars, and that is 1917. Now, it's probably an unpopular opinion to say that, but any director that shoots the majority of the film in numerous long shots and still manages to captivate the audience long enough to remain unbelievably invested on every moment the characters take gets my vote. Not to mention how difficult it is to shoot a film with so much detail, vast amounts of choreography, and a scene involving hundreds of extras and explosions while trying not to make any mistakes in what I can only describe as a perfect directorial shot. Sam Mendes really did take my breath away with this film, and I didn't care how much it cost me. I would continue and still to this day pay however much money to see this epic in the cinema again. Not many directors have done a film about World War I and pulled it off as well as Mendes. This is partially due to the fact that the film was written based on Mendes' grandfather in the war, which I think adds a whole level of authenticity and passion in my opinion. The plot is simple. 2 British corporals are sent on a suicide mission to stop an imminent German ambush before they kill 1,600 other men. The score is incredible and immersive, and it's some of Thomas Newman's best work. I feel like he continues to be one of the most underappreciated musical composers in film history, and any film that he's involved in adds any extra layer. So I might be sugarcoating this film a lot, but I honestly couldn't see anything terribly wrong with it, and I would even rank it in my all-time top film. I would definitely recommend seeing it if you haven't already. So there you have it, my top 10 best films that I watched for the first time in 2020. I'd love to know what films you watched last year, and if you agree with my list or had any other films that you'd recommend I possibly review on the channel in the near future. So thanks for watching.